Hey, good afternoon. How are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. It's afternoon. It's later than I usually do these things. I'll tell you why in a second. Welcome to all the new people. If you're new to us, we are a channel that speaks in positive ways about preparing for all the little stuff in life by preparing for the big one. And that's important. So it's good to have you. Make sure that not only that you listen to the video, but you read the comments down below, and especially if you're with us over on Patreon. I always say that I have the smartest commenters in YouTube land, and it's 100 times that over on Patreon. You get a lot more. The invitation is open to anyone. Before we get, I'm going to talk about many ways to die here. I'm going to tell you about something, an experience with me, why I'm late today. But first, I want to remind you that this, as all my videos, are brought to you by the Stonemont Series. What people say is the best guide in novel form. 6 novels so far. I have to say that people say that because I wrote them, and I don't want to say that I say they're the best. You know, there's a lot of good books out there, but I wrote these because I wanted to cover things that I didn't really see being covered in others, and I came at it from a positive standpoint. So many people have said this is the best, and I thank those people, the best series out there on how to prepare for, how to survive, and how to rebuild after a complete collapse of everything. And if you're prepared for a complete collapse of everything, you're prepared for the little stuff too. You can get these. By the way, I just got the new shipment in. A lot of people have been waiting on these books for a while. They've been available on Amazon since 2017, the first one. But man, when we put in the website, I didn't realize the flood of orders that we would get. And to be honest, I wasn't ready for it. I've been catching up. I keep running out of books, and then I'll order more, and then I run out of books again. I don't order enough in time, and it's kind of been that process. I think I'm getting better. I'm trying to get better, but I just got the latest load, and I ordered more, and I will order earlier next time. I hate to run out of books and tell people, I'm sorry, you know, we'll get them to you as quickly as we can. But I think all the orders have been filled, except some that I saw come in just today, and those will be filled today. So those are available. If you want to get them from me and you want to get them autographed, there's a place to say, would you like Steve to write something in there? Yeah. And I'm happy to. You know what's cool? I'm seeing a lot of people. I keep seeing the same names pop up on the orders, and I realize these people, when I look at who they want me to write it to, they're buying them for friends. How cool is that? You are a good friend. So anyway, those are available on the website, stonemont.us, and the link is down below. Also, not just the novel itself, but the Stonemont notebook, which is cool. It's just a book I've gotten. There's nothing in it. It's just lined, but it's really cool, and I've gotten to use mine all the time. And it says, shall I say, it carries on the front and the back. A couple of my favorite scriptures. One on the back, and it's do I have it on this t-shirt? No, I don't. It's got another t-shirt. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. And that is on one of our t-shirts. By the way, I'm wearing the t-shirt orders keep coming in too. I'm wearing what has become our most popular color in t-shirts, which is called the Royal Pine. I love this. Now this is an imperfect one. This got printed a little bit too far to the left. We don't send any shirts out unless they're perfect, so I keep them for me, right? But this color, Royal Pine, it is really cool color. There's 3, well, no, there's more than that because we've added some designs recently. And so anyway, go to the website. You can see the t-shirts too, and they're cool. They're cool, and they are premium t-shirts. Okay. I was late today because I spent last night in the ER. I'm going to be talking about many ways to die in a second, but I want to share this lesson with you all. Several years ago, some of you might remember, a very, very dear friend of mine, Jim Harrison, died because he hadn't gone to the hospital in time. And He was tough. He was the toughest man I've ever known, and I've mentioned some of that. I'm going to tell a funny story about him over on the Patreon channel, in which I might mention why I think he's the toughest man I ever knew. But Jim, he was one of those, wouldn't go to a doctor, kind of like me, like many of you, right? We want to fix it ourselves. It'll go away, whatever. And he didn't go to the doctor until finally he had a horrible abdominal pain, right? And finally he let his wife take him to the ER. And I don't know how long he let it go on. His wife told me, she called me that night. But anyway, what had happened was he had an intestinal blockage. He let it go on too far. They opened him up. Everything below that point had, I guess, died, whatever. And they said he's not going to make it till morning. And they sewed him back up, put him on morphine, let his family come in and say goodbye, and by morning he was gone. It's possible to be too tough for our own good. Now, don't worry, this is going to come into preparedness. This isn't a horrible story. This is going to come into preparedness, because we like to think that we can take care of ourselves, and we want to develop the ability, as I talk about in my books, the ability to satisfy all those needs, that we get from the modern world in a more natural way, and that includes natural healing, right? Okay, I've been feeling a little bit off for a couple of days. Got back, I figured it was getting back from, the vacation and all that. And so I was over helping my brother trim. He had some storm damage, so we were working up in the tree and cutting some busted stuff out. And I was feeling a little bit off. Well, by the time I got home about noon, I started to become almost non-functional. And I just, I held it. I hardly ever do this. I called Kelly. She was not at home, and I said, I think maybe, you might want to, if you can, be here. So she did. Well, anyway, I gutted it out through the night. It just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I finally, at about 10 o'clock last night, said, okay, take me to the ER. So she did. Well, we got there. And first off, I called a friend of mine. There's a lesson here too. I called a friend. Don't worry, we're getting to many ways to die. I called a friend of mine. Well, some of you know Mark. He's my main guy in our group. He is a former special operations medic, and he is now an ER nurse. And Kelly texted him, because I'll be honest, I was in no shape to text him. And texted him and told him what the situation was. He ran down some possibilities. She said, are you working tonight? He says, yeah, but don't come to my hospital because the doctors aren't as efficient as they should. They're not as good as they should be. Number one, know people who can give you good advice, right? People in your group. If they're not in your group, still know people that can steer you in the right direction. So he told us the hospital to go to because of potential specialists who were on site. So we went up there. Now, what it turned out, and we tried to do things, and Kelly is great when it comes to natural healing. And what she doesn't know, she's a bulldog on Google. So she is just at this all the time. And we try, for the most part, to heal things naturally, or to care for things naturally. Some things you can't. Well, anyway, we went in there. And as it turned out, the one thing that I thought was the problem, which the natural healing did eventually take care of, wasn't the main problem. They found something else that could have been way more serious. Thankfully, they caught it in time. Okay, and everything's fine. I'm good. Everything's great. I slept late today, I'll say that. I feel like a bum, but and I'm moving a little slow. I realize I'm a little logy, But, you know, I'll be back in the groove in a day or two, I'm sure. But the thing is that we can be too tough for our own good, and we can put our faith, or we can try to do things naturally when the natural ways sometimes just aren't going to get it. You know, a lot of people used to die from things that today, modern medicine, bang, bang, bang. I know we hate the pills, we hate all this, we hate all that. But still, you know, some of it is just necessary. You know, when I busted up when I fell off that roof and busted, you know, shattered my wrist, would it have healed eventually? You know, it wouldn't have worked very well. Okay, so modern medicine, use it while you can. A couple of things there is and this is why I also push a couple of points. This is why I prefer to live in the suburbs as opposed to way out. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with anybody who lives way out, okay? But I like it here. I'm within 5 minutes of the hospital that I went to, okay? And having good insurance. A lot of people like to go without insurance. They think or low insurance. Make your own decisions. I'm not going to say that you're wrong, but you know, we talk about food and ammo and all that as being insurance. Well, there is an insurance nowadays, you know, medical insurance, house insurance, all this kind of stuff that can really help out. It can if you need it. Okay, enough about that. There is a place for modern medicine. Don't negate it, and don't try to be so tough that you don't get in to have somebody, you know, they've got all the machines, right? They've got the labs, they've got the CAT scans, they've got all this. I don't, and you probably don't either, okay? They can tell us things with those that we won't figure out sometimes in time. Okay, many ways to die. Some of you may have heard about these 3 Marines that they found. Where was it? Outside of I don't know. I think it was back east, Lejeune. 3 Marines, ages 19, 23, found dead in a vehicle. They're not saying what the cause was. Was it drug overdose? Was it fentanyl? Were they out there doing drugs? You know, it's sad to think that our military is full of drugs, but it is. Okay, it simply is. Was that the case? Was it a murder-suicide? Was it a triple murder? They're not. Well, they have come out and said that they don't think there was any foul play. I don't take that. Who knows? I mean, they come out and say things for whatever reason. So maybe not, you know. Did they die of, you know, carbon monoxide poisoning? Was there a leak in their exhaust system and it filled it up and they all just kind of fell asleep? We don't know. What we do know is that 3 young Marines who you would not expect, right, 3 of them died at the same time in a vehicle at a convenience store. Some of you might be familiar with the situation of the campers that they just found out in Colorado. I'm going to do a separate video on this because I think it deserves it. They just found these 3 bodies out in Colorado. A mother, her son, and then a friend, I believe, who had gone out to live off-grid. And, you know, apparently they'd taken a tent and some canned goods. The mother was so afraid of the world. They were, you know, off-grid preppers. Well, they weren't really because they made huge mistakes. So they weren't preppers. They were people who thought they were, right? And there's a lot of those. There are a lot of people out there that think they know what they're doing and they don't, and that's the danger. And they were just found recently by hikers or something like that, and it turned out that investigation shows that they died of exposure and malnutrition. So they went out there to get away from the rest of the world and weren't prepared like they thought. You know, here again, it's the thing at the base of this is that people's failure to understand the realities of life. You know, they kind of go around and with this idea, and if they haven't had enough really bad things, if they haven't been exposed to enough bad things in life, they live this kind of, you know, fantasy. You know, I'm going to go out and live in the woods and get away from it all, and they died. You know, I mean, to live in the Rockies in the wintertime in a tent, and I think they said something about, I'm going to cover this more in a separate one. They had tried to build a lean-to out of logs or something like, you know, probably watch some YouTube videos. I don't know. But the thing is this, what do those two things have in common? What does my situation have in common? That usually, and my friends, usually it's any of that stuff could be avoided if certain steps had been taken or not been taken. You know, they say that life is something that happens when you're planning for something else. I have always said life happens in the cracks. Life, the real things, the real challenges in life are the things that happen because you're thinking about major things, right? You know, we're always thinking about major things that have to get done right now, right now, right now. And all of a sudden, something pops up and bites you. And that's what I call the cracks in life. You know, it's like a weed coming up through a crack in a sidewalk. It comes out, you weren't thinking about it, you thought you had everything taken care of, and all of a sudden something comes up and grabs you. Well, both the situation of the campers and the Marines, I don't know, you know, they don't seem to have a lot in common, but I'll guarantee you this. They had this in common, and that either one of those could have been avoided by different choices being made beforehand. And this is the importance of making the right choices. Pretty much every accidental death is preceded by a wrong choice. You know, I remember the first time that I held a small child who had died, and it was a drowning. The father had he'd had a fight with his wife, taken a couple of his kids out on the lake in a canoe to go fishing. And we were out there looking and finally found the canoe and then found just a life jacket floating on top of the water. And when we fished the life jacket out, there was a 6-year-old boy underneath it in the water. And I remember sitting in the boat, in the recovery boat, with that child and thinking. I thought about his last. I'm not going to get too morose here, but it was a time. I use those times to really get into the situation so that I understand the realities, you know, as much as I can. And I thought about here was a 6-year-old boy who trusted his father, and what we found out was the life jacket had not been put on him properly. If it had been put on him properly, he wouldn't have drowned. It had been put on loosely. It had put on, the guy wasn't paying attention. And I thought about that little boy's last minutes in life when he was out with his father and it was dark and he was, you know, they capsized and he was out there splashing around in the lake, you know, terrified, hoping his daddy would save him, not knowing what was going on, lonely, you know. And that was one of the first things that had a real impact on me. I was just a young cop at the time. And that was a perfect example, you know, of bad things happening because of poor choices. So I guess this was really about the potential of poor choices and the importance of the right choices. You know, I always said that when I used to joke around that 90% of all ER visits were immediately preceded by some guy saying, "Hey, watch this." And to an extent, you know, yeah. What choices are you making? Are you making the right ones? You know, sometimes it's not possible to know if we're making the right one, but we should always make the safe ones. Try to make the safe ones. If you err on the side of safety, you're going to be in a lot less trouble than if you err on the side of not safe enough, right? So, from proper planning, from safe planning, from actually assuming the worst. You know, Kelly is kind of always teasing me about, well, you always automatically go to the absolute worst thing that can happen. She's right. I always go to the worst thing that can happen and then come back down and then back up a ways, okay? And hopefully we'll find out the situation is somewhere down the lower end. But if you just plan for the least possible problem, well, you're not going to be ready for when that problem is bigger than you had hoped that it would be. So, you know, it's like to say, plan for the worst, hope for the best, make the right decisions. Make the right decisions according to the greatest safety. And you'll rarely go wrong. And that's a great, you know, we do that in preparedness. And that's why I say we prepare for the big one, because then we'll be prepared for all the little ones. Okay? All right. Hey, it's good to be back. I'm fine. I'm great. I'm going to be back in full swing within a day or two. And remember, the books are available either on Amazon, but I love it when you order through the website, because then I get to sign them for you. And I love that relationship with my readers and my viewers. So that's on the Stonemont website, link down below, stonemont.us. Yes, the shirts are available on the stonemont.us as well. And if you're not with us on Patreon, come take a look. Come take a look. It only costs $1. If you don't like it, you know, if you don't see how much more you get on Patreon than on YouTube, and you're really interested in preparedness, you know, take $1 and take a chance and sign up. And if you don't like it, quit. You know, that's fine. But I think you will. I know you will. And make sure that don't just watch the stuff that I put up, but go to, it used to be called the community page. I think it's now called member posts or something like that. That's where all of our members can post original content. And we have some smart people there. And I go there all the time to learn. And they put up stuff that you would definitely want to know. So remember, come to Patreon and check that too. I think that's all. I'm gonna shoot another one here in a minute, more about that situation with the campers, because it's an important lesson. But remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And that preparing well means making the right choices, the safe choices. You all have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.